The Indian Army recently signed a 293 crore rupee emergency contract for a rocket launcher system that hasn't even finished its final live-fire trials in the country. It's called the Suryastra. To understand why they rushed this acquisition, we have to look back at Operation Sindoor. That conflict exposed a glaring hole in India's artillery depth. During the operation, Pakistan fired a Fateh-2 guided rocket, a system Islamabad claims can hit targets up to 400 kilometers away. This map shows the problem. India's standard rocket artillery reaches about 120 kilometers, but with an adversary fielding 400-kilometer rockets, a massive threat zone appears. Indian forces could be targeted by enemy fire without having the range to shoot back. To strike enemy infrastructure with a 120-kilometer rocket, artillery batteries would have to push dangerously close to the front lines, exposing them to immediate counterattacks. So this 293 crore acquisition is a targeted fix. It plugs a lethal gap in the map that adversaries were actively exploiting. But if the military needed a deep strike weapon urgently, why choose a joint venture with Israel instead of leaning on the domestic arsenal or simply buying the global standard? India does have a domestic heavy hitter. The BrahMos cruise missile is highly accurate and hits with devastating force. On the other end of the spectrum, they have the Pinaka system, which provides high-volume saturation fire for closer, localized targets. Then there's the U.S. HIMARS, the combat-tested system currently dominating headlines and modern battlefields. Instead, they selected the Suryastra. It's a localized version of Israel's Pulse technology, built domestically by Naibe Limited, capable of firing multiple types of munitions from one platform. Choosing the Suryastra requires a calculated trade-off. India is passing on the battle-tested reliability of a legacy system like HIMARS to acquire extreme multi-caliber modularity. And this chart breaks down the options by cost per launch, range, and modularity. Let's look at the domestic options first, starting with Pinaka. Pinaka gives you cost-effective saturation fire, but it is strictly limited to around 120 kilometers, which leaves you exposed to deep strike threats. Move over to the BrahMos. It guarantees a kinetic impact at 300 kilometers, but a single launch costs millions of dollars. In modern combat, financial asymmetry dictates tactics. Firing a multi-million-dollar cruise missile to destroy a cheap supply truck or an isolated radar site drains your budget faster than you degrade the enemy. Relying strictly on cheap short-range rockets and highly expensive long-range missiles creates a missing middle. It leaves field commanders without a viable, cost-effective tool for mid-level tactical targets. So why not import the global standard? Let's check the HIMARS column. It offers NATO standard precision and has been heavily battle-tested across multiple conflict zones. You know exactly what you're getting. However, buying HIMARS means accepting strict U.S. export controls, and you are locked into their specific family of guided munitions. The Suryastra takes the opposite approach. It sacrifices a proven track record to maximize field flexibility. It uses interchangeable pods, meaning the same truck can fire 150-kilometer extra rockets for one mission and 300-kilometer Predator Hawk missiles for the next. India chose to bypass the American system to avoid geopolitical strings, securing the logistical advantage of launching entirely different weapon classes from a single vehicle. To survive on a modern battlefield, artillery must fire and immediately relocate before the enemy can trace the trajectory and fire back, a shoot-and-scoot tactic. The Suryastra is designed to arrive at a position, receive digital fire orders, and launch with a 10-meter accuracy radius in about 3 minutes. But there's a wild card in this system, its ability to launch Sky Striker loitering munitions. By swapping a standard rocket pod for a kamikaze Tman pod, the unit gains a 100-kilometer range to loiter and hunt moving targets. This shifts the launcher from a static artillery piece to an active hunting platform. The tactical value here is that a commander can entirely change their method of attack based on the immediate threat, without waiting for a different specialized vehicle to arrive from the rear. This scorecard outlines exactly what the Indian Army gets with this acquisition. From a geopolitical standpoint, this is a clear win. It instantly establishes 300-kilometer deterrence parity against regional weapons like Pakistan's Fateh-2. Operationally, the fast setup and relocation times give the launch crew a high probability of surviving counter-battery fire. And if you're comparing it strictly against HIMARS, the defining advantage is the universal multi-caliber pod design. However, there is a risk. We are still waiting on live fire trials to prove that these paper specifications hold up in harsh Indian environments. Procuring an unproven platform is a gamble, but leaving a 300-kilometer gap in deterrence was a far greater risk. Ultimately, these systems are destined for contested borders, where survival in the field depends entirely on speed and mobility. Through this contract, NIB Limited handles domestic production, actively transferring Israeli pulse technology into India's defense sector. This hybrid system buys the military crucial time, holding the line while fully indigenous, extended-range rockets mature in development. The Indian Army purchased a 300-kilometer safety net. They prioritized flexibility, recognizing that in modern combat, the ability to adapt to a changing target is just as lethal as the firepower itself.